Tonight, the Caroline Glachan murder trial has shown video evidence from a 4-year-old who said he was taken from his bed to the River Leven, where he saw a girl being hit with a metal pole and stick.
Also making the headlines, tributes are paid to the artist and playwright John Byrne, who has died at the age of 83.
His output never really abated. In fact, if anything, it got more and more. And I remember him telling me that there was this desperate urge to get all of what he could out of his head before it was too late. He really wanted to get everything down.
In sport, the Celtic boss Brendan Rodgers says he didn't get 4 quality players needed in the summer.
And it's beginning to look a lot like Christmas. The Lavender Drive lights bringing early festive cheer for charity. I'm Courtney Cameron in Edinburgh.
And I'm John Mackay in Glasgow. This is the STV News at 6. Good evening. The jury in the Caroline Glachan murder trial have been shown video evidence from a police interview with a 4-year-old boy who said he was taken from his bed and brought to the River Leven on the night the 14-year-old schoolgirl died. Archie Wilson said he saw someone he knew as Caroline hit with a metal pole and stick by one of the accused.
Earlier, his mother, Elizabeth Wilson, said that when her son told her what he had seen that night, the blood drained from her face. 3 people on trial at the High Court in Glasgow deny murdering Caroline Glachan in West Dunbartonshire 27 years ago. Vanessa Taff reports.
Elizabeth Wilson's son Archie was just 4 years old in 1996. Today, she told the High Court that on the night Caroline Glachan was killed, one of the accused, Andrew Kelly, and his girlfriend Sarah Jane were babysitting her 2 sons. Miss Wilson, who goes by Betty, said that her son Archie told her that he had been taken by his babysitters to the River Leven, where he saw a fight with a wee lassie who then fell in the water. He also told his mother that the fellow accused, Robert O'Brien and Donna Marie Brand, were also there that night. She told the court when she found out that her son could be linked to Caroline's death, the blood drained from her face. Caroline Glachan's battered body was discovered in the River Leven between Bonhill and Renton in West Dunbartonshire in 1996. The 14-year-old schoolgirl was believed to have been conscious when she entered the water, but she later drowned. The jury were then shown a police video of a 4-year-old Archie Wilson being asked about what he saw that night. He said he was taken from his bed and brought to the River Leven. He said he saw Caroline there and that she was being hit with a metal pole and a stick. When asked if he saw anyone else hit her, he replied, no, just Robbie. Another witness, Linda Dorian, an upstairs neighbour of Betty Wilson's, said she saw 4-year-old Archie leaving the house with 2 men and 2 women. She told the court that when they came back to the house, there was a loud commotion, swearing, and a woman wailing and crying. Robert O'Brien, Donna Marie Brand and Andrew Kelly have pled not guilty. The trial will continue next week. Vanessa Taff, STV News at the High Court in Glasgow.
Tributes have been paid to the supremely talented artist and playwright John Byrne, who has died at the age of 83. The Paisley-born painter was a distinctive presence in the Scottish arts world for more than 40 years and is perhaps best known for his Slab Boys trilogy of plays and a TV show, Tutti Frutti.
The First Minister says Scotland has lost a cultural icon, while others have praised the individuality of a man who excelled at everything he created, from art to album covers. Our chief reporter, Sharon Frew, looks back on a colourful life.
Truly one of a kind. That's how the National Galleries of Scotland describe John Byrne. Its experts say the distinctive work of one of the country's most masterful maverick artists stops you in your tracks and immediately draws you in.
Work, I mean, it's the only purpose in life, isn't it? I get the greatest joy and pleasure from working. Yeah, even though it's torment at the same time, particularly the writing.
Tutti Frutti, his hit TV show, showcased this writing talent. But John Byrne was prolific, whichever genre he was working in, with a style that was instantly recognisable. A Big Adventure was the title of his last retrospective that told much of his life story. In his last interview with STV News, the desire to create was still strong.
You just feel very good about yourself, that you can still pick up a pencil or a paintbrush, even though I'm 106.
The First Minister, Hamza Yousaf, said the world is less brighter with the passing of John Byrne, while Nicola Sturgeon described the artist as one of Scotland's most important cultural voices and the loveliest of men.
I personally feel so fantastically lucky to have known him. When you're sitting in his studio with him, shooting the breeze about whatever it is that day, inside you're just bursting with excitement that you're there with someone that's so special. His output never really abated. In fact, if anything, it got more and more. And I remember him telling me that there was this desperate urge to get all of what he could out of his head before it was too late. He really wanted to get everything down.
You know, I find some beautiful in everyday things like cigarette ends, things you see every day. I don't look for the picturesque.
Born in Paisley, John Byrne trained at the Glasgow School of Art. But before his studies, he worked as a slab boy, mixing paint in a carpet factory in Elderslie. He drew on this experience to create a trilogy of plays. The Slab Boys made it to Broadway, and it was also adapted into a film.
I was immediately put into this hellhole and made to grind up paint for the designers with a big palette knife. It was hellish, but it was great fun because we didn't do a stroke of work. I became pally with Jim Rafferty, who was Jerry Rafferty's older brother.
Another of his theatre hits, Underwood Lane, was dedicated to his friend singer Jerry Rafferty. It was billed as a love song to 1960s Paisley. His hometown plans to dedicate a section of their newly furbished museum to honour this talent.
Paisley has been on the map for many things, but John Byrne took his work through everything he did, and part of the reason that we're on the map is because of him, because he spoke so passionately about the place with real authenticity.
The artist's love of music and close friendships with names including Billy Connolly and Donovan led to famous album cover designs and portraits. Country music featured in his TV drama Your Cheatin' Heart, which starred his former partner Tilda Swinton. Even during lockdown, work continued. The playwrights teamed up with Pitlochry Festival Theatre to create a new show which was produced and performed remotely. He also collaborated on a children's book. A statement released by the Fine Arts Society said the 83-year-old died peacefully yesterday with his wife Janine by his side. In this interview with STV in 1994, John spoke of his motivation.
What I'm trying to do is produce an icon which will last, and that takes a bit of doing. It's a hard slog all the time, and you're lucky if you produce something that's even half decent, never mind a bloody icon. So, yeah, very ambitious.
A quest he continued, resulting in a rich and colourful legacy. Sharon Frew, STV News.
The former UK Health Secretary Matt Hancock has accused Nicola Sturgeon of communicating with the public in an unhelpful and confusing way during the COVID pandemic. He told the UK inquiry the former First Minister would also breach agreements on timings of announcements.
On his second day of evidence to the inquiry, Mr Hancock also acknowledged his affair with an advisor damaged public confidence in COVID rules. Our political correspondent Ewan Petrie reports.
Matt Hancock's reputation has taken a battering at this inquiry. After denying claims he lied during the COVID pandemic, he spent a second day trying to salvage his public standing. The former Health Secretary resigned in June 2021 after it emerged he was having an affair with an advisor. He was asked if he thought breaches of COVID rules had dented public confidence.
Well, what I'd say is that the lesson for the future is very clear, and it is important that those who make the rules abide by them, and I resign in order to take accountability for my failure to do that.
The inquiry was shown WhatsApp messages revealing Mr Hancock wanted new restrictions announced as quickly as possible. He said it will leak anyway, and the Scots will try to get their announcement out first.
There were a number of moments when the First Minister of Scotland would communicate in a way that was unhelpful and confusing to the public, and sometimes would leave a meeting and begin communication of a decision, for instance, sooner than agreed. We then found it much more difficult when decisions went up to First Minister level, particularly with Nicola Sturgeon, because we would find that sometimes some kind of spin was put on what was essentially substantively the same decision. So that was it was a frustration.
Next week, the inquiry will hear from the man at the centre of the UK government during the pandemic, the former Prime Minister, Boris Johnson. Ewan Petrie, STV News.
Other stories, and Mike Russell has resigned as president of the SNP. He's hoping to become the chair of the Scottish Land Commission. The non-party political role needs to be approved by the Scottish Parliament. Mr Russell was the first full-time chief executive of the party before becoming an MSP, holding various cabinet roles including education and Brexit secretary.
Shops in Scotland have seen scant sign that pre-Christmas trading has taken off. The Scottish Retail Consortium says underwhelming figures show footfall dropped by 0.9% in November compared with last year. Shopper numbers increased in Edinburgh, but Glasgow saw a decrease of 4.5%.
A crackdown on drug driving has been launched by police after figures revealed nearly half of motorists swabbed for drugs were arrested for driving under the influence. Police Scotland says it encounters 40 to 50 motorists a week who test positive for drugs. A campaign is warning drivers that drugs slow responses and increase the risk of a crash.
A Harry Potter first edition found in Bargain Bucket in the Highlands could be worth £60,000. Hanson's auctioneers say it's one of 200 copies from the first ever print run. A woman from Edinburgh bought the Philosopher's Stone book at a cafe near Ullapool on a camping trip in the 1990s before it became a worldwide hit. It's now up for auction on December the 11th.
GPs are running on empty. That's the warning from the British Medical Association at their annual conference in Clydebank. The Health Secretary says he's working hard to find solutions. Here's Brandon Cook.
Many of Scotland's GPs gathered in this conference room in Clydebank today to discuss the situation they find themselves in. Amongst them was Dr Simon Farrell, whose practice in Ayr is under constant pressure.
We're experiencing huge levels of demand. In Ayrshire there's about 3% of the populational contact practices for an appointment each day, so it's a bit of a tsunami of need and demand that's hitting general practice at a time that we're struggling with recruitment and retention of GPs.
The British Medical Association say their workloads and inability to meet the needs of their patients with the current resources are the worst aspects of being a GP in Scotland. They insist it's putting doctors off general practice and want the Scottish Government to improve investment.
We have an unsustainable model of healthcare in Scotland just now. We don't have enough GPs. Patients are finding it difficult to get an appointment. It's putting huge strain on the system. The GP morale is down, people are leaving.
During his keynote speech to doctors, the Health Secretary insisted he understands the concerns of GPs and is committed to finding solutions.
We're operating within a very difficult financial environment, which means it's difficult to take money away from one area and put it into another. But what I'm very clear about is the need to make sure that we have a clear sense of direction on how we want to expand and improve primary care.
There's no quick fix, but hope tonight greater focus and investment in primary care is coming soon. Brandon Cook, STV News.
To more stories in the West, and a pensioner has died following a flat fire in the West End of Glasgow. 3 fire engines were sent to Ascot Court in Annisland last night to deal with the blaze. Police say a 71-year-old man was found dead. Workers at Scottish Women's Aid in Easterhouse have begun strike action over the mass suspension of staff following allegations of bullying. The service, which supports women and children affected by domestic abuse, has effectively been shut down for 11 weeks after 8 women were suspended and another 5 were sacked. 20 more days of action are planned. Women's Aid say they do not want to comment.
we're hoping for dialogue with the board. We want to bring the board back to the table. We want the board to speak to us, to resolve the issues in hand and to allow us back to work, to continue the life-saving services that these women provide to Easter House.
An exhibition at Glasgow University's Hunterian Art Gallery is reframing African art and textiles to help people relate with the objects in a modern way. The items on display were in storage but have been put together to challenge people's expectations of African art and how it can be historical as well as contemporary.
It's really an attempt to give contemporary artists some space to be in conversation with the traditional works as well.
I hope that when people come here, they will begin to tremble with the objects and create their own imagination.
Now, Scotland's pandas are now in quarantine awaiting their final flight to China. After 12 years as special guests of Edinburgh Zoo, Yang Guan and Tian Tian are returning home. The pair have spent the last few days being visited by their fans and are now being prepared for the journey ahead of them. Well, our reporter Laura Piper joins us now live from the zoo. Laura, what's next for the pandas?
Well, both pandas are tucked up here tonight. It's been a busy week for these bears. They've had a few early starts. The keepers deliberately waking them up just that little bit earlier in preparation for their flight home to come. They've also had a chance to try out their fancy new panda crates. This is what they'll be travelling back to China in. They've been allowed in to have a really good old sniff about there. And earlier I also had a chance to catch up with one of their chief vets, whose job it is to ensure they have a nice, smooth and comfortable journey home.
We know from the flight in, although it was 12 years ago, Yang Guang is highly likely, because he's quite food focused, he'll probably sit and munch bamboo for most of the trip. Chan Chan, she will probably snooze. She's a bit more of a snoozer, and she snoozed on the way in, so I think she'll snooze out. But yeah, the vet's going to be there just to reassure everybody, to make sure that they're happy and content, and if anything needs to be changed, temperature, humidity, lighting levels, all that sort of thing, then she can ask the captain of the plane to alter things. But it's going to be hopefully a fairly short flight, direct flight, and we don't anticipate there being any issues.
Reassurance there from their vet, and a reminder too of the both very different characteristics of these bears. Yang Guan, we now know, very much a people panda. Chan Chan, a little bit more feisty, but both of them very much loved and soon to be very much missed.
All right, many thanks, Laura.
Time now for your Friday Sports with Raman.
There were so many things you were wanting to say.
Oh, no, right? Don't believe me.
Yeah.
Believe me.
You were. What wasn't happening tonight? The producer overruled, didn't she? And quite right too. It's about time you were put in your place. Good evening. Brendan Rodgers says he was wanting to bring in 4 quality players in the summer, but despite missing out, he says he has full confidence Celtic will add what's required in the next 2 windows to take the squad to the next level. Meanwhile, Philippe Clement says he subbed Todd Cantwell after 36 minutes because the midfielder wasn't giving the width he wanted during Rangers' draw with Aris Limassol in the Europa League last night. Here's Ronnie Charters.
The sub-zero temperatures have set in at Lennoxtown. What's also set in is the realisation it's another year without European football after Christmas for Celtic. Brendan Rodgers admitted after Tuesday night's defeat to Lazio the glaring need for quality in the squad. And today the Parkhead boss revealed what he wanted when he returned as manager.
I felt when I came in here in the summer that with the squad that was already in place from last season that we probably needed 4 players. And by that I meant 4 quality players to add to the squad. Now, how the game works, you lose players. And there was players that were earmarked to come in prior to me coming here. So, but that's absolutely fine. There's no problem. We've got young talents here that will develop and grow, and that's the model of the club. But of course, to continue to improve and grow, you need to also have players that are established, because they help bring those players on. So, and I'm very, very confident that we can do that over the coming windows.
Celtic take on St Johnstone in Perth on Sunday afternoon, looking to get back to winning ways in the league following their 1-1 draw with Motherwell last weekend.
Stephen Naismith hopes tomorrow's Euros draw can act as inspiration for his aspiring Scotland stars at Hearts. And Hibs goalkeeper David Marshall, a hero of the last qualification campaign, says a favourable draw could see this squad make history in Germany next summer, and not forget that, by reaching the knockout stages for the first time. Jamie Borthwick reports.
Hearts have hit form, and it could be timely for a few members of their squad. With Scotland discovering their Euros opponents in Hamburg tomorrow night, Stephen Naismith hopes it can inspire his national team stars to new heights.
I think the players who are all in contention for whatever countries they may be at have that desire and the drive to try and get to the national team squad for a championship. What the draw does is probably cement everything, make it a bit clearer. The ones that have got a chance, that's their drive, it's got to be their drive.
Scotland are in pot 3 for the eagerly anticipated draw. There are mouth-watering possibilities for the Tartan Army, and the man who sealed qualification to the last championships can't wait to watch the action next summer.
Hopefully we can get a good draw, because it's I think with the way the squads went and how well they've done, they've got a real chance to be the most successful Scottish team ever and for the first to get out of group. So tournament football was exciting. It was obviously a first for me in the squad at that time, but I think this will be so much better. Obviously no COVID restrictions, and I think with the tournament being in Germany, it'll be run really well. So yeah, exciting times coming up for the boys.
Hibs look to continue their recent good form when Aberdeen visit Easter Road on Sunday, while Hearts travel to Kilmarnock tomorrow, looking to record a 4th league win in a row. Jamie Borthwick, STV News.
St Mirren manager Stephen Robinson says it's a huge blow to lose Ryan Strain for 3 months, as he revealed the defender underwent groin surgery. He sustained the injury while on international duty for Australia.
Brian's gone to London for surgery, so he'll have surgery on Monday. Unfortunately, he'll be out probably in the regions of 3 months, which is a huge blow for us. But it's up to other people to step into that plate now. You know, we have a small squad that gets tested to the limit with injuries, especially long-term ones. But we're no different than anybody else.
Now, as he gets set to take charge of his 700th game as a manager, Derek McInnes says he's hungrier than ever to deliver success. The 52-year-old will reach the milestone when Kilmarnock welcome Hearts tomorrow, with the Ayrshire club 6th in the Premiership.
I'll definitely not be doing another 700, but it's, you know, I'm actually quite proud of that, you know, pleased with that longevity. You know, I think it's important that for any manager, whether you're first starting out or whether it's your 700th game, you still really want to do it, and the fires are lit, and I still really want to do this job.
Well, there are all of this weekend's Premiership games. Motherwell are at home to Dundee. There's a 9:30 pitch inspection at Livingston tomorrow morning. They are scheduled to face Ross County. And St Johnstone against Celtic is a 12 o'clock kick-off on Sunday. That, folks, is all your sport tonight. Have a great weekend. See you again on Monday.
Thanks, Raman. Now Sean's here with a look at the weather forecast.
A breezy morning will be followed up with a flurry of fresh delights for lunch. TUI sponsors STV Weather.
Good evening. For many of us, another crisp and sunny day. What I'm keeping an eye on now, though, is some scattered showers that have been falling across the likes of Kintyre, Arran and also the Hebrides today. And the reason I'm watching those is because they will start to drift a wee bit further east as we go through this evening and tonight. And as they run into the colder air across the likes of Glasgow, Renfrewshire, Inverclyde and Bartonshire, also around South Lanarkshire and Ayrshire, we could get some little sleet and snow showers into tomorrow morning. It shouldn't come to too much, but it's enough to give us some icy patches, and it will give us a rather wintry scene in some spots. So tomorrow we'll hang on to quite a bit of cloud across southwestern parts. We'll see those wintry flurries throughout the day and the risk of ice because we've got the cloud coming in tonight. Not quite as chilly as it was last night, but it's still very cold in eastern parts. But have a look at this and you can see a bit of a temperature contrast. Those green colours across Kintyre, Jura, Isla and also Arran. Our temperatures here tomorrow afternoon, 4 or 5 degrees. Milder areas trying to come in. Coastal parts of mainland Ayrshire, the temperatures around 3 or 4 degrees. So I think here mainly a mixture of rain and sleet, patchy on and off through the day. But as we head into the likes of Paisley, Johnston, Glasgow, into the likes of Cumnock and also Dunmellington, we get into that colder air across Ayrshire. So we will see wintry flurries. It's not going to be on all day. It'll be on and off. But I expect we will see some sprinkles of snow on and off at times tomorrow. But a cold, bright day elsewhere. Then we see the airflow swinging round to more of a gentle easterly. So it's the east of the country that sees the wintry showers on Sunday, and here we have the dry and bright weather. So for the time being, at least things feeling festive. If you're putting the tree up this weekend, you're heading out to start your shopping. Festive. However, we do see a change next week to wetter, windier and milder weather. Bye-bye.
TUI sponsors STV Weather.
And finally, as well as Sean's Christmas tie, Christmas decorations begin to appear in homes across the country. One street in Newton Mearns has taken festive displays to another level.
Yes, the residents of Lavender Drive's coordinated light displays have become so popular, they've now raised thousands of pounds for charity, as Laura Boyd has been finding out.
Like a scene from a Hallmark movie, the locals of Lavender Drive in Newton Mearns take their Christmas displays very seriously, with the whole street coordinating to create a festive wonderland.
It's brilliant. You can see all the lights from your window. The switch on is just amazing. It's kind of good because we get to have loads of fun celebrations at Lavender Drive. I love my house. That's right over there. A lot of people are quite competitive about the best decorations. People help others, and also I like the Christmas lights on Christmas. It's very fluffy at this bit.
It's a really strong community in the street, and we all get together at different times of the year, and at Christmas time it's really special. People come from far and wide, and it's so lovely to see them come to the street. They come in and they leave smiling, so it's lovely.
Months of planning go into each year's displays, with group chats ensuring everyone is on board.
We've got the lavender ladies and the lavender lads. My dad likes to call lavender ladies the witch's coven. But that's where all the decisions get made for what we're doing.
It does become addictive. You're always looking for the latest thing, like, oh, that's an idea for next year.
Now, the residents of Lavender Drive are not only a shining example of community spirit, they're also leading lights when it comes to charity.
So this started in 2020. One of our neighbours was diagnosed with cancer, and wanted to really try and lift the spirits. Somebody actually that was just visiting the street had done a wee drive up and down and thought, why don't you have a wee bucket just that people can put in a donation if they're wanting to. Our biggest year was for cancer research. I think we raised about 26,000 that year, but yeah, close to over 40,000 altogether.
This year it's child cancer, and then obviously the Accord Hospice, so it's giving something back to kids.
And the fact that it's become a bit of a tradition, it's quite amazing to be associated with it.
Lavender Drive, a place streets ahead when it comes to Christmas spirit. Isn't that right, kids?
Oh, isn't that lovely?
Yes, indeed. That's all from us. Have a good weekend. Good night.
Good night.